The life force of your bond. A power like life itself. Unseen for generations. A dyad in the force.
How's it going, guys? Welcome to another episode of DYAD in the Force, episode 248. The one where we were hit with a lot of Star Wars news in the last 48 hours. What up, Choco?
Hell yeah. Woo! Yeah. No, things are good. It's always, I feel like it's always something. So last night I was in the emergency room with my wife until we got home at 4 a.m. So yeah. Hey, what's up, Billy? Great to see you back. But yeah, things are good. Things are good.
Shout out to everybody in the chat. Just like Choco said, shout out to Illy, shout out to Craig, shout out to Phineas, Harrison, Calfor. I'm a spooky kitty. The Lord Goob, hope everything is fine. Everything is okay. I suppose that is relevant to your situation with Bree. Did everything turn out okay, or?
Yeah, it was. So the other day she noticed that she didn't have any sensation on her left heel, like on her foot, and then yesterday towards the end of the day, her left leg felt like it was really hot, and then she lost all ability to move it. Which I didn't know the severity of it at the time. So yeah, when she was went to the ER, she couldn't move her leg and felt terrible and stuff. But it turns out they ran all the tests, none of them showed anything wrong. And then she looked and actually found a little bite mark on her leg. So it seems like the two things were completely unrelated. So yeah, she doesn't have sensation on the bottom of her foot, but a spider or something bit her on that leg and and messed her up. But she thought there was something else going on. She was afraid it was a blood clot or something crazy was going on, but it wasn't. We turned out okay.
Well, that's good to hear. I know some spiders can actually elicit blood clots with some of their venoms. So glad to hear everything is okay. Illy says, "Wait, what? Are you okay?" As Choco just explained, everything turned out okay. We hope for the best always for everyone, including everyone in the community.
Yeah, I hope you guys are all doing okay as well. I know we're the ones who are up here talking, but we are interested in, and we'd love to hear more about your guys' lives as well, because we've been talking with some of y'all for years. We
yeah, let us know how you're doing. Let's see here. Harrison James says, Star Wars fans eating good, did not expect to get hit with the 2-shot. And then Cal followed up saying, we are eating, and as soon as we get served, we will be leaving no crumbs. And of course, one of those subjects, I hate to prioritize them. One of those subjects is our main segment, but we can actually use our mixer segment amongst other things that we have planned to talk about the other thing that came out, which was Galactic Racer. And so far we don't know too much about it, but it's going to encompass everything from skimmers to land speeders to pod racers. And I'm assuming, since we're going to get a canon Old Republic, swoops. Are we bringing swoops?
We gotta, I imagine.
But yeah, it's gonna be really cool to dig our teeth into both of these things. The other of which is our main segment, which is Fate of the Old Republic, which we'll dive into the more we get into the show. But just to kind of start things off, I do have a poll set up that said, what would you prefer Fate of the Old Republic's narrative to be experienced as? And the choices are a story protagonist, a la Shepard, a player protagonist, a la Skyrim, or any other game that kind of just lets you create a character and it's mostly voiceless. Sometimes they are voiced, but you're essentially just creating that character and kind of inserting yourself into them. And then, of course, there's the main character ones. Now, I put Cal Kestis and Revan in here, but Revan, for the longest time, when KOTOR came out, was in fact a player protagonist, because you could make them whatever you wanted, and the whole point of the story when it came out was that, like, I mean, spoilers, you were that person that you were talking about. So it's interesting to see at least the split right now as the poll stands between story and player. And I think we talked about this. No, we did in fact talk about this last night in our reaction to the trailer. And I think for the most part we're both in agreement that it would be a good fit for it to be a story protagonist. Now, that's not to say that you wouldn't have like customizations. Just like Shepard, you could, choose whether you were masculine or feminine, and then like make them look the way you wanted them to look. But the story was about that character, so it's interesting. Whereas the player protagonist was like, you're the Dovahkiin. It doesn't matter who it is. You can name them whatever you want. You make them whoever you want, and the character in those games, the main character was Dovahkiin, and not who you were playing. So it's interesting. Nobody picked a main character, which would be a Cal Kestis. I suppose we have ours. Cal Kestis is our main character. Game.
Yeah, I mean that choice kind of confused me because I'm not certain what the difference is between the main character game and the story game.
The main character game is a fixed character. That's who they are. Whereas, like, with Mass Effect, you can be whatever you want, but the character is Shepard. And then of course there's the canon Shepard. Whereas the Jedi games is Cal Kestis. He is Dominic Monaghan. Cameron Monaghan. That is Cal Kestis. You can't be anything else. Okay. You can't play as a female Cal. You are just that character.
Not without mods. The female Cal mods are actually really good, though.
Illy says, "Yeah, I don't understand the poll either." So, like, basically, a story protagonist is, it is about that character, but you can play that character however you want. Choose how they look, whether it's masculine or feminine, and a player protagonist is something that you just make up, and that's the character you are. Well, a great relevant example is Where Winds Meet. You are Young Wanderer. You are the person that you meet in the beginning, who they're carrying you, and then the story follows you as you grow up. And so you are that character. The player is the character. You make it up. Yeah. And then, of course, main character is this. This is the character. Cal Kestis is the character. You can't play a female Cal. You can't play a different race Cal. He is the main character. I would venture to say
it makes sense to me. I mean, I think we can explain it with when I played KOTOR, Revan was a black dude.
Yeah.
And then when you played it,
he was an Asian dude.
Right? Now, we also both played Jedi Fallen Order. My Cal Kestis was Cal Kestis.
Yep. Although you could choose beards and hairstyles and outfits.
Yes, but either way, you're still Cal Kestis. Yeah, I played him as a redneck with a gross little shadow mustache, made him look like some type of pervert.
Another relevant example for a main character protagonist is Kay Vess from Outlaws. There's no other Kay Vess. Can't change how they look. I think she had outfits, right? She had outfits that you can change.
Yeah, she had outfits. You know, I was rocking my little Sabine inspired outfit. I thought that was sweet. Let's see. Harrison James played Mullet Cal with the handlebar mustache. Yeah, so I was Mullet Cal, but with the really light, like, shadow mustache that is like just made him look like a creepy, I don't know, incel kid.
Yeah.
And he was wearing just his the training, like, tunic, so it was just like a dirty tank top. And then I mostly used the gun, and I just made him extra American.
Cal says, "I'm just Cal." No, you're more than that. You are our senior correspondent to the stars and our good friend. What other examples of main character games? Jin Sakai. That's a main character game.
Yeah.
So essentially, story is about a character, and it can be whoever you want. The player protagonist is the player is the character, and then the main character is about this specific person. Lord Goob says Dishonored is also main character. Yeah. Clair Obscure as well. I'd say that's like an ensemble, but they're all characters that are like, those are the characters. Let's see. The cute short-haired lady is my choice, says I'm a spooky kitty. What was that in reference to? Fidia says Mass Effect style Star Wars has so much potential.
I mean, it's often my choice too.
Listen, my preference is Bob. I like Bobs. I'm talking about hairstyles. Now we'll get to talking
you
about
say that because at my job I caught a guy named Bob giving himself a lower 5 at work the other day. So when you said my preference is Bob, I was like,
Yeah, well, I mean, we'll get to more Photor when we get to the main segment. The Witcher, yes, Geralt is a main character. But I believe
yes, Gage, Bob.
Andrew Coatsworth says, "Are you guys excited? The Leviathan Downed reminds me of Rey. Star Wars is in a perpetual state of remnant factions. We need Neo Crusaders, please." It does. So I was sent a couple of pictures of the interdictor from KOTOR. That was the Leviathan, essentially. And it does look like the thing. But of course, we're kind of like going hand in hand with Legends lore and what could be brought into canon. And the one thing that we saw in the trailer, and I'm like, we're getting ahead of ourselves. We're going deep into it already, but I digress. The one thing we saw in the trailer was that when they entered the ship, it was a long-headed species, and that is where I'm getting it's Rakatan, and they're just kind of like, as it looks, they're blending these styles. The only thing that was missing was like the handlebar eyeballs. That was like.
I mean, maybe we should go backwards today, because everyone's is real revved up, and I feel like we're not going to be able to do a mixer without people interjecting stuff. I don't know.
I mean, we can do our mixer real quick. I believe we have a George Lucas quote to. You guys are adults. I think we have a shout out to Darth Angel on the TikTok side. I think we can do our mixer really quickly. I do believe you have a George Lucas quote.
I sure do. So I'll bring that up. Also, if you guys have anything that you're super interested in that you've been doing outside of Star Wars, throw it in the chat. Let us know. I know a lot of people were watching Stranger Things. I stopped at the second season, so I don't know anything about that, and I don't care about spoilers if you do. But, oh, and then the other thing is I was watching Orphan Black Echoes, and I mean, it doesn't have the same deep writing as the original, which most extra shows don't, but or follow-up shows don't, but it's good. It's been really good.
Right on. I have been mostly.
Did you say Chernobyl was a cute show? The hell's wrong with you?
Really quickly before you bring in the first or the quote, Cal has been a member for 52 months. Yay! I think I have something for this. I do. I have something for this. I'm just kidding. Yay! 52 months for Cal. I'm getting my pod racing game. I still have to fix SH4T. I don't think SH4T says the membership alerts. So you guys are gonna have to, not me kind of like shilling for a super chat. You guys might have to go super chat for that. Lord Goob in the chat has been a member for 14 months. Woo! Shadow of Maul, a Shadow Lord prequel was announced. Oh my gosh, we haven't even gotten Shadow Lord. We're getting a prequel. This is...
What? When was that announced? Did I miss that? I mean, it's been a... Yeah.
Man, Maul...
What are you doing?
Maul be Shadows. Like, everything in Star Wars about Shadow is Maul. What?
Sorry, Thane is... He was acting like he was about to attack me.
He's on the top rope.
No, I kept hearing sounds, and it's him, his little claws on my little shelf, as he's like aiming to like jump on me. All right, go.
Harrison James in the chat says, currently watching E Pluribus Enum. I'm just kidding. Pluribus, and welcome to Dairy. Oh, you know what? I wanted to start that. That's the Pennywise show, right? Welcome to Dairy. What is Pluribus? Gauge.
Pluribus is Latin for something.
Gauge. I'll do two at a time. I'll do my own alerts. Gauge FD has joined the DYAD Squadron. Maybe that's the wrong that's the wrong theme song for this. We'll do this for Eric Schnelker, who joined Squadron Command.
Hey!
Welcome to the squad. And since Eric Schnelker is a Squadron Command, he gets to order all of you lower ranks around. So whatever he says in the chat, you guys gotta listen. He says so many new subs. Is that 3 now? 4? Yay. I mean, listen. let's keep going. Let's keep going. I don't want to shill for this stuff, but we're trying to grow. We're trying to make this a big thing so that we can spread the word. We can normalize normal conversation, and just change up the zeitgeist of Star Wars fandom. So thank you guys so much for joining the Dyad Squad. Let's see. Geek of All Trades says, a show made by the guy who created Better Call Saul and Breaking Bad. Pluribus. Oh, is it like in the same universe? Or is it just made by the same person? Lord Goop says, life news. I guess I'm getting into Warhammer. The old world might like it more than Star Wars. I know, heresy, but it's really fun. Everybody is entitled to that, you know?
That's you saying that is why I refuse to get into Warhammer. Like near me, there's full on just Warhammer stores. That's all the story is just Warhammer stuff, and like I don't know, I've seen it have a chokehold on people and their lives, and especially their wallets, with spending countless hours of building and painting miniatures and all this stuff. So I understand it's the same universe as Cyberpunk, just very far into the future, which is interesting.
Very interesting. So Johnny Silverhand exists in both? Very, very nice. Yeah. Very, very nice. Well, what do we got today, Choco, in terms of a George Lucas quote?
All right, so I'm going to read the George Lucas quote, and then we can see what we think about it, what it means to everyone, and yeah. So, welcome to Tales from the Archives, where we talk about what George Lucas has to say about Star Wars. This is taken from the archives, the older one. So it's
the mini black book.
Yeah, this is from him writing the original trilogy. And the quote is, Jedi Knights get taken from their families very young. They do not grow attachments, because attachment is a path to the dark side. You can love people, but you can't want to possess them. They're not yours, except that they have a fate. Even those that you love most are going to die. You can't do anything about that. Protect them with your lightsaber, but if they die, they were going to die. There's nothing you can do. All you can do is accept that fact. So we can stop there, but basically he says, in mythology, if you go to Hades to get them back, you're not doing it for them. You're doing it for yourself. You're doing it because you don't want to give them up. You're afraid to be without them. The key to the dark side is fear. You must be clean of fear, and fear of loss is the greatest fear.
Some strong words indeed, and something that we have been espousing for quite a long time, for 6 years now, in terms of the distinction between love, compassion, and attachment. Let's see here. Sharpshot said, sounds like Jedi are based on Catholic priests. Buddhist monks.
No.
Because they preach detachment. And essentially, like, the biggest thing that we have to contend with in terms of misinformation about this is that people say, well, loving someone is attachment already, you know, or having a relationship, or a master and apprentice relationship, and that's just not true.
So what those people are thinking is correct, in the form that loving someone is an emotional attachment, but when Jedi practice non-attachment, that has nothing to do. That's entirely separate, right? That's not what an attachment is. Again, you can love people, you can care about them, you can't want to possess them. And so one of the things that this always leads to is, I believe this is the biggest point of where people are like, well, the Jedi are actually the bad guys because they don't let you love people, and you're like, no, they do. That's not that's not what they're talking about. Or when Anakin says his whole spiel about how they're actually encouraged to love, people are like, oh, well, he was just trying to raise her up, so he was, it's like, no, that's exactly what they believe. Kanan and Hera, their relationship, people are like, see, that's healthier than the Jedi. We're like, no, Kanan and Hera's relationship is exactly in line with what the Jedi have always taught. He never wanted to possess her, and as soon as he thought that his judgment would be compromised by his feelings, he removed himself from the situation. He understood that, which is weird that people have so much trouble understanding this, to me at least, because I feel like it should be obvious. Like, doctors don't operate on their relatives for the same exact reason. If you have a politician, you want your politician to make the best decision for the people and not make a selfish decision against the people because someone they love is in danger. Like, I feel like this should be really obvious.
Yeah, I hate to paint with a broad stroke, but I'm gonna do it anyway. It's like saying I don't mean to be rude, but here I go. I feel like most people that misunderstand love and attachment or compassion and attachment are the people that want to justify Anakin's choices, right? Anakin,
that is their justification.
Anakin had several attachments, all of which was not based in love. He did love Padme, but his attachment to her was strictly selfish. He couldn't lose her. I can't live without her. His attachment to the Jedi Order.
You will not take her from me.
His attachment to the Jedi Order. Several times he could have left if it wasn't for him. But his attachment to it was an attachment to what he was being propped up to believe. Palpatine would talk to him all the time about being the best Jedi, more powerful than Yoda, and you can take over and lead the Jedi. And so what we hear from Anakin in the movies when he's talking to Padme is like, I should be more powerful than I am. I should be more, right? And so he's attached to this image of him being the most powerful and the strongest Jedi. This is in contrast to Ahsoka's relationship with Jedi, because quite frankly she is the most Jedi when she is away from the Order. She let go of that attachment and left, but she still exemplifies all of their teachings, and that's not to say she left the Jedi Order, but she was still Jedi in the way that Yoda would use that word when people say, or when he says, you may leave the Jedi Order, but you're still a Jedi, And so that's the thing that we like to hammer down in terms of the point of this exercise, is that many people will say that the Jedi teach emotional suppression, but they don't. They teach control over emotion, and then there's this where love and relationship is attachment, but that's not it. Attachment is literally trying to possess, trying to control, and the unwillingness to let go of it. I really gotta fix this.
I still maintain that the best example of this comes from DJO and Race Across Point Tower. Because we have a young Jedi who has this exact question. Are emotional attachments the same as attachments? And it was Vernestra who has to explain it to her. Because she's like, man, I love all my friends. I feel like I'm a ball of attachments. And she's like, okay, well, if your friends were in danger, would you save them? She's like, yeah, of course. Okay. If saving them meant that you would never see them again, would you still do it? And she's like, yeah, of course. All right. What if the person was not your friend? Would you still save them? She's like, well, yeah, that's what being a Jedi is. Like, what if it was your enemy who was in danger? Would you still save them? She's like, well, yes, that's what we're supposed to do. Like, then that's not an attachment. You're saving them for them, not for yourself. That's the difference. And so I even saw in the chat someone who was at Sharp saying that that attachment wasn't the Jedi's problem. But I mean, in all honesty, the ones who struggle with that were the ones who always fell. Like that, they were exactly right. I mean, the whole core of Star Wars is selfish versus selfless. And I think we're going to run into this a lot more often as we go through other George Lucas quotes.
Yeah. And shout out to Cal for the $5 ramen drop. I thought I fixed it, but it came out without SH4T, so I'll read it myself. Fix your SH4T bot. Also, deploy the likes for Star Wars hype. Appreciate you, Cal. Thank you for the drop. Yeah, and that kind of runs in tandem with a lot of the misunderstandings and misconceptions of the Jedi and their teachings. And Illy says the will of the Force is a whole other topic, but I will touch on that because Sharpshot 6111 says the Jedi needed to understand the fate of a person, be it good or bad, is the will of the Force. That is not the will of the Force. The will of the Force is balance. The Force will always seek to correct its cycle when it's thrown out of whack. And essentially, balance in the Force is the ability for it to flow like a river through the current of life, death, decay, and rebirth. And this is essentially why the Sith are the ones that ultimately always bring about imbalances, because they're always trying to control that river and try to divert that course for their own needs. And when the Jedi and Force users say we need to trust in the will of the Force or follow the will, the Force is not exerting a will for someone to be bad. Like, the Force is not going to have the will to make Anakin Darth Vader. The will of the Force is to be in balance. And it's up to the agents of the Force, which are essentially Force sensitives that can hear its will, to act upon it. And we see some of this in Andor as well, when that Force healer tells Andor that, he carries with him a lot of things, and he needs to be in certain places, and it's the same thing with Chirrut Imwe. He carried with him the will of the Force, and that's why he didn't get shot. When he had to do what he had to do. But the will of the Force isn't going to be like, we need this guy to be a bad guy. Like, now we need to do this. So yeah. That's that.
And then I saw in there a question. I need to pull up the YouTube. Sorry, I'm actually not on it. But can you read what Gage said up above?
Gage.
I wonder why.
I wonder why Anakin and Padme insisted on keeping it a secret, even though it was allowed with the Jedi.
So again, it's still a conflation of of I mean, the best way I always explain it is to use the example of alcoholism. You know, if you're predisposed to being an alcoholic, different people might express it in a different way. Some people may not go into a place just because they serve alcohol. Some people may drink occasionally or socially, you know. Some people may think you shouldn't drink at all. And in this example, Anakin was a full-on alcoholic and trying to hide it. Like that's why it wouldn't have been allowed, is because he had no control. He wouldn't be able to control himself or it. So that's the big difference. You know, and also they were hiding a marriage, right? And a marriage is a different thing. When you get married to someone, you are legally attaching yourself to them. You know what I mean? It is a legal an oath that you take to put this person in front of everything else, which the Jedi are not allowed to do.
Well, that was retconned by George Lucas years later, after the original and the prequels, saying that the Jedi could marry, but it was heavily frowned upon because of everything that Choco just mentioned. I like to think, like headcanon wise, that Anakin knew that if the Jedi Council knew about his relationship with Padme and the aforementioned marriage, that it would affect their ability to utilize him in ways that he wanted to be utilized. Because we often read in the books that Anakin struggled also with thinking people didn't trust him, and this is all while he's actively lying to everyone. So it's essentially like a self-fulfilling prophecy all over the place, you know, covering all angles. That Anakin. But well, yeah, I mean, like if they knew,
being you know, groomed and manipulated.
That's true too.
The same classic, you know, grooming things that people do. He was inflating his ego and telling him, "Oh, well, they, you know, they just don't know. They can't handle it." Like Palpatine was intentionally driving that wedge.
Yeah, and so essentially, I think my headcanon is that Anakin would probably say, "Listen, if they knew we were married, they probably wouldn't send me off on missions and allow me to be the Jedi that I want to be." Right? He was also very, very attached, like I said earlier, to the notion that he was the most powerful. And of course, you know, Palpatine was propping him up that whole time to be the most powerful. You could be even more powerful than Yoda. And so, like, we have stories of Jedi that are married, but then they end up being like paper and pencil pushers in the cloister. Like they're in the libraries, they're in the archives, they're diplomats, they're essentially non-combatants, and so they often, I imagine Anakin was afraid that they just wouldn't let him be, and it would have probably been the actual right move, to be honest. If you found out like one of your best Jedi was like married, like, oh, I don't know if we should put either of them in danger anymore.
I mean, it would have changed a whole lot of things, especially considering, you know, Padme liked to go undercover. She liked to be in danger. She liked to do all this stuff, and
well, she was her own master. You know,
Anakin wasn't having it. You know, I mean, my hot take is if they were allowed to spend more time with each other, they would have broken up. Anakin was not emotionally mature enough to be in a stable relationship. Not that he's a bad person, you know, and I see this all the time, or in some of my friends who, again, he was just too possessive. I think there was a possessive and insecurity there.
Yeah. Billy says, apologies to change the subject slightly off Star Wars, but have you read the Red Rising series?
I would love to. I've heard great things about it. One of the people who I follow, Chloe, Chloe Michelle, I think is her name. I don't know. I like her taste in books, in anime. She's the one who is still dating. What's his name? He used to be a Star Wars creator and kind of faded away into obscurity.
I don't know.
Red Rising is a series that is on my list to read. There's just a lot of Star Wars books. Plus, I've actually been reading a lot of just history because things are weird right now, and I want to understand why.
Yeah. Really quickly. I need to test this out because I thought I fixed it.
Oh, and Gage said, that Clovis episode shows the cracks between them so badly. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the person...
I
mean, that worked.
Yeah, but now they're speaking in multiple voices.
Hold on.
Raina.Magio super chatted 2 ramens.
2 ramens.
Okay, there we go.
So I suppose it's working. I don't know. We'll see.
But yeah, E.K. Johnston, the person who wrote the Padme books, explained it in a way I love, is that there was serious conversations that they needed to have with each other, but because of the war and because things were always going on, they never got to have those. So when they were together, they were just together. And it was like, okay, we gotta solve this thing. Nope, something comes in, they have to run off and do a bunch of stuff, and that just kept happening, and things kept piling up.
And then, of course, we have our latest example, which is Avar and Elzar. Everybody knows they're together, but they have this active agreement with each other that their duties with the Jedi come first. You know? So,
And that's why I loved Obi-Wan saying, had you asked, I would have left the order, because for him and Satine, he wouldn't have been able to put his duty first, and he knew it, which is a good thing.
Yeah. We also need to normalize the fact that leaving the Jedi Order is a good thing. If you really, if it's not the life for you, then leave. You don't have to be the Jedi are the bad guys because these people can't handle the lifestyle. You can leave. If it's not for you, it ain't for you.
What's funny is leaving wasn't even frowned upon.
No, it wasn't.
And they would remain close friends. And when Dooku left, they still, unfortunately, let him into the archives and stuff. And he messed around a lot. But he was just a whole ass politician, just walking around doing stuff. He's like, hey, what's up, guys? And they're like, yeah, come on in.
He goes into the restricted section of the archives. Dooku, what are you still doing here? He's like, I'm here as a friend. And I would like to access the restricted tombs.
Fiddy says, Revan within the novel is a good example of a Jedi being married and with a little one on the way. Sorry, what was his son's name again? It was just Revan respelled. Yeah, Vader. But yeah, he goes ahead and leaves his wife behind for the greater good, which is kind of sad because he ends up trapped in stasis for 300 years.
I am personally not a fan of that particular story treatment for Revan. But Gage FT says, I wish Attack of the Clones had a Palpatine and Anakin scene. It's weird they don't interact once in that movie, but are all over 3. Well, it's essentially part of the story, right? Because Anakin goes off with Padme and then has a dream about his mother while on Naboo, goes off to Tatooine, then goes off to save Obi-Wan, and then they're on Geonosis, and there's this whole story about them there getting captured and escaping. So there's not much. I can certainly find writing opportunities to have them interact. But it makes sense within the movie itself that there's no opportunity for them.
Yeah, I think that movie was too busy for that. But also, I love George, but George is George. You know what I mean? Like, I know I doubt he was thinking about that, but ultimately he wanted this to be episodic but tell a larger story. It's not really one cohesive story, especially the prequels. They are all
It's operatic
stories.
in nature.
Yeah.
Gage says leaving is tremendously tough though. If you're taken from birth, you've also got no money. I don't know where that comes from, because from the material that we have of Seekers, with them setting up families that give up their children to the Jedi Order with resources and stuff, and with examples of people leaving the Jedi Order like Cantum Sai. I've never reached the conclusion that someone was like, I would like to leave the Order, and the Jedi were like, bye. I assume that there is an exit protocol, to not leave them in the lurch.
A severance package.
Yeah, I don't think that they leave them in the lurch like that. It's like, I don't have any money. He's like, well, you're leaving, so you're no
Well, I don't know that they do or they don't, so I'm not going to make that assumption either way. But we see several of them leave. You know what I mean? We see people leave and have whatever they have on them, and they have ships and all this stuff. But also the other thing is, if you are a Jedi, you are not materialistic. You honestly don't need much, as well as you have a lot of skills, and so you're not going to be hurting, So when Ahsoka left, she was all right pretty quickly. When Dooku left, he was all right pretty quickly. Well,
we should take this opportunity to address that, because Gage says Cantum leaves into an active relationship. Ahsoka leaves and is almost immediately in trouble. That's not by virtue of her leaving. When Ahsoka,
that's her getting involved with people who are in trouble. Yeah.
When Ahsoka leaves, she leaves with her T6 starship, and I don't think she has personally enough affluence to afford that. So she left with her T6, landed on Raida, and there were people in trouble, and she got into trouble, but that wasn't a consequence of her leaving. That was just a consequence of the state of the galaxy and the state of the world of Raida. But she had her T6, she had her equipment, she had her gear, and when she sets up shop on the planet, she has a whole bunch of stuff with her. So I assume they weren't I almost feel like
they're not like, oh, you get nothing and we're taking back everything. They really didn't care about possessions. When Lula leaves, she takes her starship and all the stuff that she has. Unfortunately, she gets into a wreck almost immediately. but that has nothing to do with anything else. We just have a lot of stories of people leaving and then they just start a life somewhere. And it's not frowned upon.
Yeah. Let's see. I mean, I think that's essentially what we've got so far. Unless there are people in the chat.
I will definitely say it's hard to leave because these people are your friends and what you consider your family. But, by the time you leave, you will also typically have outside contacts, and you have typically been around and experienced other cultures and things like that enough that you'll be able to get by.
Also, we're also assuming that there isn't like I said, an exit protocol where what do you guys So this is a question for everyone in the chat. What do you guys think would happen if you chose to leave the Jedi Order and then subsequently went to the council and said, listen, I have nothing to my name. I have no place to go. Could you guys help me? Do you think that they'd be like, nah, you on your own? You're choosing to leave. No, I think that they would find like accommodations. At the very least. I think we're not giving the Jedi Order, and I hate to sound like a huge apologist, but I feel like we're not giving them enough credit. Like, do we really think that they just like throw them out and then like they're unwilling to communicate or try to set them up with a place to stay or introduce them to people?
But that's the other part of it. Is a lot of people, again, they associate their own personal experience with organized religion with the Jedi Order. So they assume, oh, well, if you leave, you'll be shunned and excommunicated and all this stuff, when that's not true at all. The Jedi don't do that. They basically give you all of your possessions when you leave.
Yeah.
They just don't really have much possessions because they don't care.
Gage says, I think she got her T6 later. She blows all her money on a bad speeder and is scammed on Coruscant. No, she still had her T6. She was spending her money on a speeder she needed to get around Coruscant. She's not going to fly the T6 everywhere, right? Let's see. Kenny in the chat. Kenny! Hello there, everyone. Sorry I'm late. Was listening to Podwans. Shout out to the Podwans podcast. I thought they were on Thursdays. I suppose we're stepping on each other's toes now, are we? No. Let's see here. They probably offer transport, maybe even get some set up with a job. I mean, yeah, like, so there are stories in the books of people that worked at the temple, and got jobs with the temple because they couldn't pass the muster with like their force sensitivity. You know, there's that. I mean, the Jedi Temple in and of itself is a place that needs workers as well. That needs staff. Not everyone is a Jedi. So like, I feel like it is a cynic's view to think that someone leaving the Order would just be on the outs, unable to talk to anyone on the council, and would be unable to receive help. I think if the Jedi can help families that they recruit children from, they can help those leaving being like, okay, I understand that this is your decision. If you need a place to stay, we can, we can connect you with someone for temporary arrangements. Long story short, I don't think they would let someone leave and just be homeless. And just be like, bye, good luck. You know? Kenny says, what up? Okay, Photor and Racer, what games is everyone picking? Yes.
Picking?
What is that? I can assure you I will be able to play Racer, because it's not, I really hope, but I'm assuming it's not going to require us to be good pilots, which is why I don't play Squadrons. But I like racing.
Well, yeah. I mean, let's talk about Racer, and then we can talk about the next one. I'm really excited about it because I mean, I'm not gonna choose because I don't have to. I'm gonna eat both up, you know. But it's made by the same people who made Burnout. So I always had mixed feelings about the Burnout games personally, and because it's because I grew up doing driving sims, and so I couldn't figure out how to do games that were more arcadey. You know what I mean? Because like I would always overbrake and stuff like that because you're not supposed to drive it like a normal car.
You would
know.
enter.
But-
You would enter like a simulator, and then like let's say Need for Speed, but then like if you approached it that way, your car would go into like an extreme slide and then spin out. You're like, wait a minute, I thought I had more control here.
I mean, what was it? Cruising, where like you tap the gas twice and you just pop a wheel.
Yeah.
Like, so yeah, I always had struggled with things like that. But having that studio or that team of people make a Star Wars racing game, that sounds inspired, right? That sounds perfect. And I always, debated with myself because I loved, the episode 1 racer games. But I'm like, man, there's more than just pod racers that I would like to have. And then they solve it. They're like, yeah, just pick whatever you want.
I will say I love the setup for this game too. Where they say what do they say about hold on. I'm trying to find it. Let's see. The familiar location from Star Wars The Force Awakens, a popular haunt for scavengers like Rey in later years, has been transformed into an unsanctioned racetrack for all new video games Star Wars Galactic Racer. Essentially putting to bed any notion that they're leaving the sequels behind. They're just actively like name dropping them.
But going through a downed Star Destroyer sounds amazing.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
I can't wait to see all the different kinds of stuff that we'll be able to race. And the resurgence of swoops, maybe?
Skim speeders.
Let's see here.
It's giving Star Wars Mario Kart vibes, with being able to race with whatever. I'm curious about how custom all your things are going to be.
Let's see. Just saying, as a raised NASCAR fan, Sebulba looks like Jeff Gordon. I do like I do like how Shade looks. But, from what we see, it looks like fun. At the very least, it looks like a great game to like kind of like pick up and just have a race. One of my favorite games back in the day was Jet Moto. And that was just tons of fun. Tons of fun. L'ami pimp. Oh, I thought you were like starting with like a French sentence. L'ami pimp my pod racer. No. Let me pimp my pod racer, please and thank you. I'm sure there is.
Yes, it needs to be custom. I think that they know. I mean, they even talk about it. There's so much love for Sebulba on the team across the Star Wars community. We got to get those engine sounds. You know what I mean? Because those give me life.
I would like to put Sabine on my racer.
Not touching that. Anyways,
ew, I'm not even gonna say ew. Let's see.
I am hoping that this whole thing is set post Tross. That's really what I'm hoping for.
I'm hoping that too, but I do like what Kenny says here. I'm hoping for a bloodline timeline because Han was like a racer coach. But I believe that was for flying.
Well, here's kind of a little talked about thing from The Force Awakens. Rey has a speeder. That's literally the only speeder we see on the planet. And I think that's meant to speak to her personal ingenuity. That's not a speeder she purchased. That's what she cobbled together based off of parts that she was able to scavenge.
Yeah, She took a dining room table, flipped it vertically.
But that being said, if that is true, this would really only make sense post Tross, because there's not a bunch of speeders around. You know what I mean? There's not a thriving racing community. Of course, it's possible something epically bad happens at some point in time. But yeah, I think they're going to lean into the post Tross timeline and just move forward, which is, again, I love being right. I feel like the best thing that Star Wars could do is just move forward and leave the chuds in the past, because they'll still do everything. Because they'll still do everything to still crawl along and follow. But if they just make a great racing game in this new setting, I think it means that this game is not going to rely solely on nostalgia for success, and that's what we need. Because we just need to open up a new chapter and move forward.
Yeah, but there's going to be a black racer and a woman racer, and they're going to find some way to to latch on to something to complain about. Caleb on the TikTok side said, "Who would you want to see besides Sebulba and Ben?" For a split second there, I thought you meant Ben Solo, and I was like, why would I see Ben Solo in a racing game? But that's Quadranaros. Who would I want to see besides Sebulba and Ben? Given the timeline that we're currently talking about, I would love to see Tora. Maybe Tora, races on the ground as well. Tora Doza from Resistance.
Jaeger.
Jarek Yeager. I think in one of our previous videos I called him Jaren, because I was thinking of Aaron Yeager.
Aaron Yeager. You baka.
I would like to see also an Ewok racer. I think that would be really cool. Just on a little, is that in SOTOR? Or is it in Destiny? The one where you know how you can get a Count Dooku speeder, but it's really, really small and stuff? Is that?
God. No, you can get it in Destiny. I hate Count Dooku speeder. It's so lame.
But that's how I imagine an Ewok would use. More their size.
I pictured two Ewoks stacked on top of each other, riding a stap. Gage said that the synopsis said that the Empire had just fallen. I'm not seeing that though. I'm looking at it on StarWars.com. I didn't see that.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you're incorrect. I didn't see that.
Where was that? Where was that said? If you don't mind us asking, Gage, because there's no allusion to
full disclosure. Empire. I've been out of it since I slept almost all day because again I got home at 4 a.m. and so until we went live, I hadn't even seen this.
Well, so. This blurb from StarWars.com says, the familiar location from Force Awakens, a popular haunt for scavengers like Rey, in later years has been transformed into an unsanctioned racetrack. So just that blurb alone means to me that it is in later years relative to those sequels. Because after the events of the sequels, it has been transformed into a racetrack.
And Engage says the Steam page for the game says, with the Empire gone and the galaxy rebuilding. But even that to me doesn't scream right after.
Yeah.
But who knows? We gotta wait and see. I think that though saying the Empire's gone is more. I mean, the New Republic is still fledgling. The galaxy is still rebuilding from everything that happened before.
I mean, in general, that time after is all with the Empire gone and the galaxy rebuilding. So it could just span like 40 years of the Empire gone and rebuilding. But I am leaning more towards and latching on to, in later years, Jakku was turned into a racetrack. So
I am also going to go with that, as also because we're getting several movies set, post-Tross, as well as the comics are jumping to post-Tross. And I feel like that's all timed intentionally.
yeah. Either way, it's going to be fun. It's going to be something that I play. I never got into Burnout, but I did play Need for Speeds, a lot of them. And it's going to be a blast. Hopefully there's like a free roam option where you like go around with a speeder, your custom Pimp My Ride speeder, and you go around to a lot of like different meetups and areas where racers are gathering, and then you can engage in races that way. What was the first Need for Speed that did that? Need for Speed. I forget, but they did one where it was just free roam and you drove around the city and hopped into races that way. But the pedigree of such a studio, it's going to be fun. It's going to be a fun racer to dive into. But not to minimize that.
Kenneth, you are correct. Need for Speed Underground and Underground 2 and Most Wanted were peak games. Those were, yeah.
But not to minimize the discussion of Galactic Racer, it's time to talk about Fate of the Old Republic. This, along with Galactic Racer, is not something that was on the radar at all. Like,
I'm really excited. I just, I said it in our short video. I feel like
shattered 2.66 Ramans. Launch day gaming live stream PLS.
Yeah.
Oh,
Shout out to Illy for the 2 pound ramens. Oh, wow. We got 2 pounds of ramens.
I mean, I will be returning to my old classic of taking the day off of work. Definitely. Like, hey, are you going to be going somewhere fun? I'm like, yeah.
It's a staycation in the galaxy far, far away. We will do a launch day gaming live stream specifically because you dropped those ramens. So stay tuned for that. We'll do it for both, for the Galactic Racer and for Fate of the Old Republic. And the first thing I want to mention in this discussion on Fate of the Old Republic, along with Galactic Racer, is they're listening to us. Right? How many times have we pitched, have our guests pitched a racing game in Star Wars? And how many times have I pitched a Star Wars RPG with Mass Effect mechanics?
Mm-hmm.
And they brought in the freaking Casey Hudson of Mass Effect to do this. So barring the combat system mirroring For Honor, this is essentially the game I was pitching this whole time. A single player RPG narrative with Mass Effect engine, a Mass Effect carriage.
Yeah, no, it's again, yeah, we're just winning it all front. Also, the thing I've been hammering a lot is, listen, I loved KOTOR. I don't want a remake. If we have a remake, then it's like, is it canon? Is it not canon? Is it going to be the same story? Are we going to have a canon protagonist? And the people who are clamming for it will never be happy with it because they hate everything, And I'm like, give us a new story, a new narrative in the Old Republic. Maybe you can you can have it surround. I mean, the vast majority of the legacy of Revan specifically is what we find out after the fact in KOTOR 2.
Yeah.
All the cool stuff about Revan, you didn't do it in the game. He did it later.
Yeah, I like to think like maybe the first 6 or 8 hours of the game is on Terrace. You're just like, how do I get through this the Sith embassy? And then you're like in the Undercity, and then you go to Dantooine, and then you go through your training again. You know, and then the masters are like, wow, this person has become a master level Jedi in 3 days. It's like, it's because you're Revan. But like, again, like,
are you some type of Mary Sue? Like, nope, I'm a boy. And they're like, oh, I forgot. And then you guys go about your business. Now it's also like at the end of it, they're like, you have earned your Jedi crystal, and you're like, I have 9 of them. I have a lightsaber right now. I've had one for the past like 8 years. It's funny.
Trelly on TikTok said, For Honor's combat system is patented, but that'd be nice. That's a bummer, man. I really, as a game designer myself, I do not believe in patenting game systems.
Which, by the way, I'm sorry, I just have to throw this out there because Netflix was in talks to buy Warner Brothers.
Exactly.
Which means they
the
would
Nemesis system.
That being said, it's an awful idea, and we need to stop our media from all becoming one large monopoly, because that ruins things for everyone. But it would be interesting to have the Nemesis system open to games that are all part of throw that into some DC games. That would be really cool. And then, I mean, listen, make a game where I was one of Batman's last proteges, but like not a Robin, and then Batman dies, but like I have to go and save Gotham, and then the villains that I beat up are getting stronger, and they are becoming my arch nemesis based on how I fight. You know what I mean? Just like the Joker is the anti-Batman. You know, that would be super sick. But in Netflix has a lot of its own IPs that you could do all types of cool things with. But again, media companies need to stop merging. I really don't want the Ellisons to buy it, and then all of our media is just slop.
We don't need more homogeneity in the industry, because that means, like, you know, more studios get laid off, essentially. But Illy says 21 viewers. I've literally never seen this high view count before. Sweet grats, which means anyways, welcome everyone. If you're new to the stream, we are real Star Wars fans. Caleb in the chat says feelings on them possibly doing an eclipse with the trailer based on Jason Schreier. I mean this with all due respect. I can care less what Jason Schreier says. Casey Hudson has as himself, as well as his team at Arcanaut, have a wonderful pedigree, and they don't necessarily have the controversial context of Cage. And not the Cage that we all love. But it's interesting to think about it. I don't think it's going to go the way of Eclipse. I think this is a very real thing that they're going to put their muscle behind because it's the Mass Effect team. I wouldn't, if I were in Lucasfilm's shoes, I would not mess this up.
Well, the other thing is, and of course, is always things that can happen, right? But the other thing to remember is that sometimes these showcases are meant to pull in talent to help complete the project. So sometimes, like, you can say, oh, they shouldn't tell us this beforehand. But by doing this, you might be able to attract even better talent for your team while you're making it.
Yeah. Let's see here. I'm
Good
torn.
evening, Marcus Briggs.
Kenny says, I'm torn with Fate. On one hand, a new canon story with the Old Republic. I'm here for it. However, I'm not getting a KOTOR game after years of problems. Kind of disappointed. Now, here's where my head's at. And allow me really quickly. I think this is all intentional.
You still have the second mic in the background that's active.
Do I? I don't think so. I'm
So
tapping
you
it right
mute-
now.
I hear that. Maybe it's not being picked up, but it's funny. You mute and cough, and then it's just like a little cough. Didn't hear it that time.
Anyways, this is where I think their head's at. So hear me out, Kenny. I think that the reason we have not gotten a recent update because the KOTOR remake is still being done by Saber. They haven't shelved it. They haven't killed the project. I think and this goes in line with what Gage is saying in the chat as well. They should have taken KOTOR remake as an opportunity to canonize it, and I think this is what's happening. They are positioning Fate of the Old Republic as canon and saying specifically it's not a sequel to the previous games. And they're letting this project drive the creative narrative behind the KOTOR remake so that if they canonize the KOTOR remake, it would fall in line with the events and continuity of Fate of the Old Republic. And so I think they are accounting for this, and they're going to let this team behind Fate drive essentially what is establishing the canon timeline of the Old Republic, because it's an empty canvas, right? We just have allusions to the Old Republic in all of the source books. So if they bring out Fate of the Old Republic and they establish a baseline canon, then the KOTOR remake and the ending that they go with, just kind of like alludes to the events of FOTOR. It's going to take a while for me to get used to that, but I know it is FOTOR, just like KOTOR. But it feels weird. But I also wanted to address Illy's comment saying FOTOR is also going to have light and dark mechanic. They can always say broadly that the events happened and not choose specific choices, just like Outlaws did. In terms of canonicity, these games all have a golden path that is canon to their continuity. So KOTOR 1, KOTOR 2, they all had, various mechanics that you could change your gameplay, change the story, make different decisions, fall to the dark side. They all have golden paths that are considered in continuity with, at that time, EU, and then at this time, Legends. So it doesn't matter if FOTOR gives you the choice of light and dark and stuff like that. It's essentially, it'll have a path that is in continuity. So you can do whatever you want with
you can
choice.
look at, Cal Kestis is canon, but let me ask you, did he go to Dathomir first, or did he go to, what's it called? Zeppo first. Zepho. It doesn't matter, right? Because if you would look at like Cal Kestis's history, it would be like he went to these two planets, So without actually making a choice, then it would be, it's all still fits into it. Doesn't matter which decision you make, right? That's still not going to affect the crux of the narrative, right? That's roughly what I imagine this will be, because this is typically what they do. You know, this may be your character may be a Jedi that at the end ends up off on their own doing something, and the Jedi don't know what happened to them. You know, maybe their fate is unknown, and so whether you fall to the dark side or stay in the light is not relevant to the overall canon. There's a lot of options there.
Yeah. Marcus Briggs asks in the chat, which releases first, Fate or Elder Scrolls 6? I'm not sure, but we're gonna get both before GTA 6. Los Ogre says Fotor could take place before KOTOR 2. No, so Casey Hudson said that this was a story that takes place after that timeline, but it is not a sequel, a direct sequel to those games. It is spiritual in its succession. So with that being said, because it is leaning towards canon, it really wouldn't matter either way.
Yeah, and then as far as the Knights of the Republic remake potentially being canon, I just don't know how they would work that in. Like, you go to planets all over the galaxy in that game that are further than what the explored galaxy was at that time, or during the High Republic. So did, like, everyone forget? Did they all lose that? We just lost hyperspace technology? I don't know. I don't see it happening, and I see a lot of people being very unhappy if it did.
Yeah, and it's also the case that, like, it still falls in line with my read of the situation that they're using Fate to determine the canon of a potential KOTOR remake. Because then if it is after or before, then it's irrelevant, because the canon of one game, or the continuity of one game, will have informed the continuity of the other. So I'm hedging my bet that Fotor will come out first.
Either way, please, now that we have a story group, plan it out first. All right? This was a major problem in the past. Like, back when George Lucas was around and they were working on the Maul video game, the reason that they couldn't do anything... Yep, shout out to Faith Reverend Maximus. Maximum. Not Maximus.
Faith Reverend Maximus Decimus Meridius.
But when that Maul game was in development, they got ran around in circles by George Lucas so bad that their studio closed because they were banking everything on this game. And so they're like, we're making this Maul video game, doing all this stuff. And then George Lucas would pop in and be like, by the way, we're bringing back Maul in the Clone Wars, and he has spider legs. And they're like, what? Why? And then they have to, like, figure out. And then he's like, oh, and then we're... like, he kept just throwing them weird monkey wrenches. And then he'd be like, Darth Talon, put her in it. And they're like, how? She's not even in this timeline. And then he's like, okay, well, set it in the future, and it's Maul's descendant. Like, what? It's pretty funny. You should. They've actually have that all pretty much documented, and it's pretty hilarious to hear them talking about it.
Eric says, I think the fall of the Old Republic could be what loses parts of the known galaxy. So that in continuity would not work, because at the beginning of the High Republic, Lina So is talking about the expansionary region and bringing these worlds into the Republic for the first time. And that is in large part, connected to the building of the Starlight Beacon and making sure that they have communications arrays for all of those.
That's what the Republic Fair is for.
Yeah. So, like, canonically, those parts of the galaxies do not exist in the Republic. They're not part of it, and sure, there are people that exist there. They're living their own. I like to say they're living their best life. Just kind of like not being in the Republic, but essentially, the lore is that they've existed, but they haven't been part of the Republic, and the Republic is still at that point burgeoning and expanding. So I think the fate of the Republic, at least for me, needs to be a galaxy that is sort of siloed, essentially. Right, because it is the Old Republic, and if the High Republic is when they start expanding, then the Old Republic is like, we're this sort of fledgling government now that wants to centralize things around the core worlds, and we don't know how the mid-rim looks at this point, you know? So
Yeah, and that's the other thing, is they were just getting to the mid rim, and we're still having hyperspace prospecting teams to get out there first.
I want them
I
to
don't know,
refer to Coruscant in Fate of the Old Republic as Neutron.
I hope they call it Coruscant. Oh, the galaxy largely in the Old Republic was unchanged, and I love the Old Republic, and I love the narrative, but like, the galaxy was the same. The design choices were the same. The bad guy ships were like the same, and it's funny because they wrote it of like, oh well, Palpatine was inspired by these designs from 4,000 years ago, and that's why the Empire looks the same. But it's I just always thought that was fascinating. Like, okay, so there's been no real change in a long time.
You know what I would love, like headcanon wise? I would love the Old Republic to largely be part core worlds, part unknown regions. Because canonically, Exegol was a lost, hidden world of the Sith. Right? So that means in antiquity, that world was known. Right? Just like Korriban, or Moraband is known in antiquity as Korriban. So these worlds would largely be known, at least to some in the galaxy, and then that would connect to Eric Schnelker's take that some of these worlds could have been lost in the fall of the Old Republic. So, you know, places like Moraband and Exegol and worlds and Sith worlds that fell due to the Jedi-Sith Wars would be lost in antiquity, and some of the unknown regions and those planets would be lost. And like, I feel like as a consequence of those conflicts, like the prospecting teams like just gave up on charting the unknown regions. They were like, yeah, this place, we're just gonna go in the other direction.
Yeah.
Can we have proto-sabers around this time in canon, or are those too old? Proto-sabers are, I mean, listen, we don't know anything about canon at this time. We don't even know what time this is actually taking place. Because if this is a canon Old Republic, what we have in canon source books of the Old Republic is that they are it was thousands of years ago. So it could be like it was it. They reference Darth Bane as the Old Republic in our canon books, having established the rule of two, and that's like 1031.
I want us to go back to when they would just duct tape a kyber crystal to a sword and be like, it's a thing.
It's
Don't look
sharing.
at it too much.
It's aura. Proto sabers were the very first. Now it depends on which EU you're talking about. Again, because this is something that is largely a mess around that time. Because we also have Dawn of the Jedi, in which the Rakatans introduced lightsabers. So they went from actual physical swords on Tython to like brandishing lightsabers because that's what the Rakatans were using. Then there's the other EU canon of the Dawn of the Jedi, where they very much did that natural progression of technology with physical swords to proto sabers and to lightsabers. But I think in terms of a canon Old Republic, I don't think we would, at least at this time, whatever they choose to do would be proto saber ish. Do you know why? Because in Skeleton Crew, they also referred to the Republic in antiquity as Proto-Republic. So I feel like there's the Old Republic, lightsabers, like the beginning of lightsabers, and the Proto-Republic, where there were proto-sabers. So,
I don't think that's how it works.
Hey, word association, man.
I kind of want to see the original George idea where all the stormtroopers all had lightsabers.
Yeah. Harith Edit says, so like the latest 1032 BBY? Yes. Darth Bane, the canon Darth Bane, not like the Darth Bane books. The canon Darth Bane was described to be like the end of the Old Republic in canon. So it could be anywhere from 1032 to what we know from Legends to be like 4900 to 5000. I like that though. Oh, I like the Proto-Republic representing the timeline of the Republic being like the dinosaur age for Jedi and technology. You know what I mean? Like people still used lighters with flint.
It's true. No, Gage says that the Proto Saber was also in that VR experience at Disney Springs, Secrets of the Empire, and it didn't look like it had a backpack. So that's interesting. That's one thing, is I don't have VR. So there's all of these Star Wars VR experiences that I just have never gotten to do, and that makes me sad.
You know, I've gotten to play Vader Immortal, and that was an interesting one. That's when we learned that Mustafar was actually a jungle planet before. I forget. Was that? No, it wasn't Lady Proxima. That's Den of the White Worms.
No, it's yeah. I there was the Sith woman who did a thing to try and bring a loved one back and destroyed the planet.
Creation of the Aeon engine.
And that's why Vader accidentally ended up healing Mustafar, but over time.
But yeah, I mean, at least to me, that's the headcanon that I'm running with. Is the Proto-Republic represents kind of like the Dark Ages and the very beginnings of the Republic, and like technology was just kind of blossoming at that point. And the Old Republic is like the medieval times of that, where like there's technology, but like most of society is sequestered in their very siloed kingdoms, and like, you know, it's not as like lived or busy as what we know to be the Galactic Republic era.
Lazoger says, I just imagine managing battery power for your early lightsaber.
That's cool.
Yep, all lightsabers have batteries, though.
Yeah, it depends, right? Because what is the lifespan of a diadium power cell in the Old Republic versus the Galactic Republic?
Yeah, it says probably like the old days where instead of the lightsabers that we have now, you just had the flashlight with with your big old Duracell batteries that like it lasted for like a half an hour, and then your lightsaber got all bent up.
That's another question. Would they have used diadium back in the Old Republic? Because that's what they use contemporarily. with the Galactic Republic and going forward. No, they used it in the High Republic as well. So, like, if we go at least 1,000 years prior, would their power cell be different? Because, again, just like Choco said, we want this world and the technology to be different. You know? So maybe they didn't discover diadium power cells yet. Maybe they are still using Duracells. You know, like Harith says in chat, oh man, I forgot to charge my lightsaber. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean it's possible. The thing I kind of want though is I know this may be a hot take because we already know that Thotor has lightsabers, but it would be cool if they mix it up. You know what I mean? Like
we
when
don't know
May
what
was
kind.
fighting with her knives. I was like, man, that's cool. Like, I want a Jedi that has like billy clubs or something. You know what I mean?
Well, we don't know what kind of saber. It did ignite, and it did sound a little bit more industrial.
Sound beefy, yeah. Industrial grade lightsaber. It's Gage says Kylo Ren sabers is Old Republic design and uses diadium. That is true. As well as Kanan them found an old lightsaber, but we don't really know exactly when that was from.
Yeah, the design itself is Old Republic, but not the power cells. And the one that Ezra found, the power cell was dead.
Yeah.
So we don't know if that particular hilt had diadium in it, or if it was of the Old Republic power cell and it died because.
Do you think there's like a Jedi that comes out wearing a black turtleneck and he's like, introducing Proto Saber 2 now with fast charging?
Like in The Last Samurai, they had like these shows to show off the newest technology, or.
And then the android sabers were like, we've had fast charging forever. Where you at?
You know what I think? I think what I mean by, and I agree with Beefy, what I mean by like industrial, like lightsaber design, like, because the way it sounded very bassy, sounded very unrefined. You know, because like nowadays with the Galactic Senate and forward, they just go. But like in this trailer, it was like, pardon my sound effects. I feel like the sabers from the Old Republic in canon would be like the old wireless mics that you used to see on like red carpet interviews, where it has a huge ass like bottom to it. You know what I mean? Like they had those mics, and then you had your logo flag on it, but then at the very bottom there was this huge like battery pack and transmitter. I feel like the hilts would look like that. It would be like a regular hilt, and then at the bottom of it, it would be like a engorged like battery box at the bottom.
I just don't like your use of the word engorged.
I've always wanted a Predator style wrist lightsabers. Hey, go even further, man. Lightsaber shuriken. Well, seriously, you throw it and it ignites, and it just kind of like spins through shit. Let's see. I would love to see nunchucks as lightsabers. Your body wouldn't like to see it like that, though. How do you wrangle nunchucks that by design have to hit your body to some degree as lightsabers?
No, you could do it. You would just, the lightsaber part would be past the part that hits your body, but you would eventually kill yourself because nunchuck, like, you would have to use them differently than other nunchucks. But that was an idea. I went and grabbed this book to see if I can find it.
Yeah, they did talk about it.
Originally, Keith Trennis was supposed to wield nunchuck sabers.
I mean, that saber Ezra found was sitting there for thousands of years. Yeah, We don't know. We don't know what kind of power cell was in that lightsaber. Is what I'm saying.
It could have ran out, that day.
You'll have to master the trickata of nunchucks. You're just like every time you flourish on your body, you just turn it off and then you whip it out and then you turn it on. I'm a professional Foley artist, so it sounds exactly like that.
You know what's funny is I know people look at trickata like it was like a new or advanced technique, but that was actually George's original idea for how Luke beats Vader. Is he was going to have Luke turn off his lightsaber so that Vader swings through and loses his balance. That's also in the Black Book.
I imagine the Malachor battle was closer to 1,000 PPY based on how Palps talked about in the Mal comic. Yeah, it was. It's described as an ancient weapon, to be sure, so it is definitely, at least relative to the time they're talking about it, ancient. Let's see. Time to use throwing vibro knives. Yeah. It's just
honestly though, if I was a Jedi, I would absolutely be Captain Americaing it. In fact, for the Star Wars campaign, my character is going to be using is a Kyozo, who will be using their hat to throw around and control using the Force.
And it has a magnetic sheath around the rim, right? So that you can ignite a lightsaber as it's thrown. Like Kung Lao. Harris says, wait, 1,000 BPY Photor? No, the timeline hasn't been established. He's just talking about the Battle of Malachor that took place in Rebels, was described at least 1,000 years ago. But
damn, I can't find it.
Phoenix says, I should say, if fans subbed his sabers, obviously not an actual Lee film. Huh? I can't parse that sentence, Vibius. I always felt Malachor was the canon Rusan after seeing how Rebels revealed it. I mean, it could be one of those battles. There was multiple fronts. Could you imagine that lightsaber was Farfalla? It was Farfalla's.
It was green.
Have like a Beskar cover for one side of the nunchuck. That wouldn't work. Although, it would still be lethal if you hit someone with a Beskar nunchuck. Wait, I thought the timeline was roughly established in the Star Wars article. It was roughly established to be a spiritual successor to KOTOR 1 and 2. But they didn't say the year.
And also, I mean, you have the issue of KOTOR 1 and 2 not being canon. So even if it supposedly takes place post whatever those events would be, we still don't know what year that would be relative, technically.
Yeah. Now, I mean, speculating wise, I do think that Fate of the Old Republic semantically alludes to, the end of it. Because like the fate of something is essentially like what becomes of it after events happen. So I feel like the fate of the Old Republic is like, this is what happened as a result of something that happened. Like Fate of the Jedi. That's what I think. Now, another thing, we do have updated poll results. We have 9% saying main character story. Interesting. So let's entertain that really quickly, because are we thinking that the person in the teaser is a canon Bastila?
I don't know. I'm sorry. My brain just doesn't work like that.
I mean, what do you think?
I don't know. I don't know what that means. I just think it's a canon person.
Do we? Okay, so let me rephrase. Do we think that individual in the teaser trailer is a character of import, or is that essentially the protagonist of the story, whether it's a story protag or main character? So, because there's some rumbling saying that, you know, it could be Bastila.
Yeah, it could. I mean, it could be Bastila. It could just be a random Jedi that, you know, maybe we're seeing them literally die, and then our character has to go and investigate and find out where they died. I don't know. My brain just sees too many possibilities, and so I don't.
I think
I don't know.
We're both
I don't
of
have the
them.
ability to guess.
I think we're both of the mind that this is a new character, obviously. But there's always that possibility. Gage says, I would assume it's not a canon Bastila. There's no way they avoid giving the iconic double yellow blade. Or giving up the double yellow blade. To which I'll say, in the teaser, it's a blue blade. So, is that a canon Satele? We don't know if it's a single blade or a double blade, because we just see the light.
I don't know. I just feel Satele needs to be Asian or half Asian, or else I'll be upset.
Well, I mean, we don't. I can't necessarily tell the ethnicity of the person we saw.
I don't see those features when we look at their face.
Listen, there are more than just Korean and Japanese Asians.
I'm aware of this. It just doesn't appear the same.
See, Lord Goob knows what I'm all about. Maybe a descendant of the Sean family? Like, one can only hope. I do think at the end of the day that it is either a new character or just like a nondescript Jedi that happens upon this wreckage, and that's like the catalyst for the story to start. I don't think that that at least for me, I don't think that the story is going to revolve around the character we saw in the teaser. I think that is just largely a inconsequential prospecting team with a Jedi. Isn't the lady in the trailer Caucasian? Feel like they wouldn't race swap Satele? I can't tell the ethnicity of the person in the trailer. It's an extreme close-up of their eyes, and they're all sweaty. Now, be very careful about about saying, well, the eyes weren't slanted or something.
There's just nothing there for that character that I would associate with the Shans other than them being a female.
I just think that's just a person in the teaser.
Yeah.
Canon Mitra. Isn't Mitra blue? Well, Mitra is canon. In so far as like it makes sense for Sir Explained to be an idiom of the High Republic era. I don't know. You know, I think the safest path for us to move forward with speculation is to not assume that any of our old characters are coming back. Do you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
like seeing this trailer.
I hope we get to play as a Ventian Jedi as well.
I mean, like if you see this trailer and you're like, man, I hope Karth is in this. Like, you're setting yourself for disappointment.
No one has ever wanted the Karth to be in anything else.
No one has ever wanted to Karth in general. I don't hope for Canderous. I don't hope for. Well, I do hope for Mission Vow. No, I'm just kidding. That's unhealthy too. Caleb says you're right. We need Zane. Stop.
I could do that. I could do that. Zane would be a fun protagonist.
But this is the fun of being a fan right now, is because in canon we don't have specifics of the Old Republic. We have allusions to the time period. So it could be anyone. It could be what we're thinking is a new character. It could be an inconsequential character that's just part of the teaser. That's not what they're there for. My current thinking is that this character is a Jedi with a prospecting team, and they happen upon a Rakatan. Now, I know a lot of people, like we mentioned earlier, are saying that it looks like a Leviathan, it looks like a Starforge Interdictor cruiser. And it does, but I keep on, you gotta rewatch the trailer. The alien that rises from the smoke is long-headed, and it is taller than the Jedi. And going off of at least what I know of the mythos with Dawn of the Jedi, they were tall species. They had long heads. And it had a very alien-like, like guttural, like as it was rising from the smoke. So,
yep, it looked like Martian Manhunter, to be honest, in his original form.
that was Revan. He was like, I've lost my memory. Joey Barron says, any Old Republic character, Darth Momin. Darth Momin, I believe, is like, he said something, Momin said something about his master Shah. And did he say Shah was Old Republic?
I don't recall.
I don't think Momin or Lady Shah was of the Old Republic. Were they?
I don't think so. So I don't remember specifically.
Well, Gage is saying 1100
I
BBY.
remember.
So I don't know.
Okay.
They've been dropping clues of the Rakatan Empire in canon. They have. Is it the Rakatan species? That's what I'm referring to. What we see in the teaser is an alien-like, and what I mean by alien, I mean like non-humanoid, rise from the fog inside the ship. It was long-headed, and very, very reminiscent of a Rakatan. We didn't see the googly eyes, but we did see like a elongated head. It could have been a moon. I don't know, but it would make sense. Just like Caleb says, they've been alluding
a little sharp
to
for a moon. You know?
Yeah, but just like Caleb said, they have been dropping Rakatan Empire hints in canon with Andor. You know, so it could very well be that. Phoenix Kage says, so Acolyte takes place before all the Star Wars, right? Why do people hate it? I can't speak for why everyone hates it. I just know that there is hate that exists that has to do with being anti-woke.
Yeah, it's mostly tribalism and people perceiving there to be an enemy other or whatever.
Yeah, there are valid reasons that you would dislike it or have criticisms of the show, but that's for that person to personally personally espouse. Not for me to assume, but there was a large contingent of fans that just were complaining about lesbian space witches and diversity, and that's pretty much most of the discourse. Moment is active post Bane 1032, but only by a couple of decades. Oh, okay. He's around before Bane, but close to him. Okay, so listen, we have two very, very knowledgeable lore heads in the chat that we respect. Caleb being very, very knowledgeable, saying that he is post Bane by a couple of decades, and Gage, who I believe just won. No, it was Gage won the last Jeopardy. Was that Archive?
It feels like it was forever ago. Either way, they're both amazing.
Let's take a look at the league.
I'm looking at
Let's see.
Darth Moment, but
Gage won. Yeah, Gage is up there.
Yeah, it's saying it on. I'm on Wikipedia right now, but it's saying it on Wikipedia does not necessarily make that true.
Yeah, we also don't know if Bane truly died at 1032, right? In canon, in a story that takes place 32 BBY, they say 1,000 years ago. Which, to lore heads, you put it in your Bible, okay, 1032. Like 1,000 years before 32. But, you know, it's all kind of like... Our chronology is ramshackle, based on unreliable narrators. But they're both, I guess, around the same time. I would venture to say that Moment is post-Bane. Because...
Rule of two.
Rule of two. And then Baron says Moment was before Bane. Oh, brother. Let's just say they both existed at a time where things are a little shaky in terms of details. Let's see. Seeing the same for Supergirl. We were seeing that hate for Supergirl when she showed up in Superman. We were seeing that hate for Superman because he was nicer. You know, so I really can't place my finger on the pulse as to like one singular thing.
I mean, again, I place it on tribalism. There's as the contingent of people who have decided there is a line in the sand, and anything that's on that side is bad and is ruining everything and should be destroyed. So some of that is racism or sexism or a bigotry. Some of it is those people covering for those feelings and being like, see, they're calling us this, and then turning that into an anti-woke narrative. And again, it just becomes like, oh, well, this is my team. It's new and from Disney, it's bad, you know?
Yeah, case in point, in our newest reaction to Fate of the Old Republic's teaser trailer, I had one comment saying the only people that like this are the people that hate Star Wars. And I'm just like, what? Oh, I lost my mic there for a second. I didn't even mute. Let me go back to that comment. Okay, so they said we got the first canon Old Republic story in 1993, right? And then I replied to, I gave the spiel about canonicity being rocky all these years until they kind of established their own protocol for it. And then they said the expanded universe has always been canon. Only idiots who hate Star Wars think it's not canon. And then I did my whole smug reply. I was like, "We're lore keepers. We don't need we don't need you telling us about the lore." And then they said, if you're lore keepers, you'd be on my side. But in reality, you shill for Disney and deny the EU's canonicity. That's a telltale sign that you hate Star Wars. You're on the same side of the people that hated the prequels back in the day.
But again, that's exactly what I said. It's tribalism, right? They're saying, "Hey, you're on this side." And I'm like, "No, I just like Star Wars. I don't know. What are we doing here?"
I don't know. We're on this channel every Friday and practically off camera loving all of Star Wars. I have an Old Republic tattoo. We love the Old Republic. We love EU. And there's this weird fascination or obsession with assigning importance to canon. Like, because we say the old EU is legends and not canon, that somehow diminishes its importance or our love for it. But it is essentially just us establishing the continuity that we're operating in. If we want to talk about what happened in the latest TV show, we're not going to talk about what happened in Legends because that's a different continuity. You know? And then so many people get offended that their continuity isn't canon. And the only real distinction between the two is that one is primarily like the main timeline that they're working on. That's it. But like the stories are still there. They're still republishing Legends books. They're still re-recording old audiobooks, new audiobooks for old stories. You know, Sator still gets stories. There's nothing wrong with Legends. So, and I did see some of you in the chat here have replied to that comment. So appreciate you guys rocking for us and carrying the banner. I love EU, but canon is better. I like Legends canon just so much. I like Legends canon just... I like Legends canon just so much better. Yeah, I mean, overall, like, the Old Republic is still my favorite era, but that's because a large part of my bias exists in that time. But, like, if I were to say which continuity is better shepherded and well maintained, it is current canon right now, because they didn't have a canon policy back then, until 2008, really. And even then, from 2002 to 2008, they had multiple people commenting on what was canon and what wasn't canon, right? We had Rostini talking about, yeah, it's all one overall continuity. And Leland Chi saying there's two separate canons. And then there's George saying, I don't give a shit about the other world. Until 2008, when they released a tier list that was like, G canon, T canon, and G and T that's George's domain, right? The TV shows and the films. And then there is the S and C canon, that is the films plus publishing. But I agree with this decision in 2012 when they were purchased. They were like, this is canon right now. This is canon. Everything else is Legends. And it just made it easier as they established the story group. It just made it easier.
Which is something that Lucasfilm established before selling to Disney as well, right? Straight up saying, 'cause the big problem was there's a difference between canon and continuity. as they said, this stuff can be reliably considered as part of the overall continuity as long as it doesn't contradict any canon source. It was never considered canon. It was considered in continuity. But George drove the canon. And so they decided, hey, everything that George decided was canon is what will be our official canon going forward, which is a smart idea.
Yeah.
But also, every single person who could decide whether or not something was canon all say that the EU wasn't canon. It says, because I'll have people be like, well, this author said on this podcast this, and I'm like, yeah, and I have Steve Perry saying that Shadows of the Empire wasn't canon on a podcast. It doesn't matter. I don't care, because they don't get to decide what is and isn't canon. Like that's not relevant to me at all. All I can tell you is that the official wording from Lucasfilm is that it's not.
And that also goes with the fact that the other option exists too, where people can hold their own personal canons. I call it heart canon. Everyone calls it head canon. We do it all the time, and that's nothing wrong with that either. But if we are talking about something and engaging with the canon of Star Wars, then we're operating with the canon data set, right? That's why we're talking about KOTOR and what it means for a KOTOR remake, and how KOTOR 1 and 2 doesn't affect KOTOR. And what we know of the Old Republic in Legends doesn't affect KOTOR either. So they can largely do whatever they want in establishing the first canon Old Republic story. They can establish this world as being very, very barren in comparison to the EU Legends Old Republic that basically was the same galaxy. So it's all in an attempt to be on the same page with which continuity we're talking about. Because then we also have to contend with the Legends continuity of Visions, which is essentially, if you think about it, let's take Visions Volume 3. 9 episodes. That's 9 different canons. That's 9 different continuities. So, I mean, like, they're neither more or less than, but they still exist, and they're still great stories. Woo! Yeah. Legends has far too many inconsistencies. That's what happens when there's not someone in charge of continuity like there is with the Disney canon. Yeah, and this has nothing to do with you, Illy. I hate to refer to it as Disney canon because Lucasfilm is still in charge of it. Lucasfilm, for the most part, still has the same people managing the story group that worked with Lucasfilm prior to the purchase. You know, they have Sostak, they have Hidalgo, they have Dave Filoni, they have Doug Chiang, they have a lot of people that worked on canon prior to the purchase, and they're still working there now. So nothing really has changed other than the directive that this is where canon starts and we're going to build out from here. Because it would be difficult. It would be a massive undertaking to take all of EU and go one by one through all of the stories and pick and choose which one survives and becomes canon. And then you're like, now let's write 7, 8, and 9. It's like you can't. There's way too much to file through. Anyways, talking about the game. Do you think gameplay is going to be closer to Mass Effect than KOTOR 1 and 2? I think it's going to be closer
think-
to Mass Effect.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, turn-based games are having a comeback, but as they were back then was not good. The gameplay in those games is bad. It's bad. I'm sorry.
I think under the hood, they can get away with KOTOR 1 and 2 5e turn-based, mechanics. But player-facing mechanics, it's going to be more like Mass Effect. More action RPG than turn-based RPG.
But also, they do need to have controls on certain things. You
Yeah.
know what I mean? Again, we always talk about our friend Sawyer, who had to start over because they built their character wrong.
Yeah.
And then they just couldn't beat it. You know what I mean?
I also, and see, this was also a part of my overall pitch for like my perfect game, which was an action RPG single player narrative that had Mass Effect mechanics in terms of dialogue choices and branching story paths, but also with the way that they used biotics in Mass Effect is largely like how I would envision them creating a combat system around the Force, like using a gravity biotic and having someone float, and then using a push biotic to push them to like knock them into the ether, like those kinds of like combination moves and the way you could use those skills in combat in Mass Effect is largely how I would imagine that plays out in this game. You would have a force pull, force push, a force wave, and then you can like start to unlock tiers and levels of these skills. But yeah, in terms of lightsaber combat, it's interesting to me because the Jedi games have a really good combat system, but it's also very different from Mass Effect. So it's I don't know. I don't know. Because Mass Effect's melee was terrible.
Yeah, but Mass Effect wasn't built for melee. You know what I mean? Like that, it was not built with that being any sort of idea of a primary.
I mean to say it's a terrible
so-
template to use to go forward with it. I like the biotics for the Force. We just got to figure out, what works for like lightsaber combat. I love the Jedi games, but not every lightsaber game does. Not every lightsaber game needs to use it as the golden standard, and I don't even think that it's the golden standard, to be honest.
Yeah, I mean, I've been playing, Destiny 2, and I love their lightsaber mechanics, but it's not good. It's not great for like dueling. But again, I just really want them to now make a Jedi Outcast game, because to have their gunplay with the lightsaber mechanics would be amazing.
Well, now that we know that they're listening to us, I'd like to add an addendum to this overall pitch, right? A single-player action RPG, narrative-focused game with Mass Effect mechanics in terms of branching storylines and choice, player agency, and biotics. Take the combat system from Where Winds Meet.
I was like, say it, damn it.
for the sword play, because it is amazing. The sword play in Where Winds Meet is top tier. I believe it to be the golden standard right now. And I would even take its use of like certain mystic skills to be, applicable to the Force as well.
Honestly, I was shocked at how comfortable all the controls are for where Winds Meet, considering how how many there are, how many options there are. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like I've gotten used to more button mashy things, but like no, you have like legit combos and things to go back and forth, and the different weapon choices don't play the same. You know what I mean? And they need to be played differently. And
especially if
there's a lot of
you
good stuff.
especially if you get into deflect canceling, right? Because then you have your like dragon breath deflect cancel into poet, into your weapon skill, into dual weapon skill, and then into so like
yeah,
my
you can play it like a fighting game. You know?
so like my bread and butter opener is dragon breath deflect, drunken poet 2 strikes, Q twice to do my rope dart pull into the spin kick, which knocks them down. Then I summon my rats and switch to dual blade and let the rats continue to attack, and then I do Q spin, then R, then the follow-up R that I just discovered, and then if that doesn't kill them, then I'll do Q again, which is why I leave that third Q out of the initial combo. But it typically leads into exhaustion for them. But yeah, I would use that too.
Time to coffee up for a D&D. Yep, have a good one, Caleb. Appreciate you always.
Thanks for hanging out, Caleb. I don't think there should be a gold standard. I like this goes back into us being like, I don't think you should be able to patent gameplay mechanics.
Yeah, the reason I think, of course we're talking about where wins meet. The reason I think it's such a standout success is because it didn't feel the need to follow the same path that every other game takes. And that's what we need, right? That's
I forgot.
most important thing. Like we have, you have Clair Obscure, which is turn-based but has parry and dodge mechanics involved in it. We had there has just been a lot of innovation in the game space lately that is people breaking molds and trying new things and just being more open to different ideas rather than skinning Souls games over and over and over and goddamn over again. We need that creativity to come back.
Yeah, I also forgot in the middle of all of that, there's a ghost bind in there as well. But yeah.
We also need Remnant 3 to come out.
Remnant 3, Enshrouded 2.
Oh, by the way, it was also, someone also mentioned Exodus, the game. That's another one that we are very excited about.
Exodus. I didn't watch the Game Awards.
Neither did I, but Exodus has been talked about for a while. So Exodus is the other people from the Mass Effect with a separate sci-fi game. And people have been saying that it's kind of like Mass Effect for people who are fans of The Expanse.
Oh. I mean, that's me. For sure. Also,
Control 2? Control 2? Was that actually announced?
Is this also the era where like a lot of companies just do what we've been clamoring for? Because like one of my other game pitches is a story around the Exodus from Earth. Because we often have stories of the apocalypse and stories of the pilgrimage, or the story of the colonization, interstellar colonization. But we don't have the story of when it happens, everyone's scrambling to leave. Do you know what I mean? Like I talked about this when we would play Destiny, we would see all of like the old ships that was flying on the first collapse.
Yeah.
Like there were some rockets that didn't launch. Like I want to live the story where like shit's going down and we have to evacuate Earth. And this is the story of that Exodus. I don't know if Exodus is about that, but maybe there's a game out there.
It's not, but you'll have to watch it after this whole thing.
Not Control 2, but another Control game was shown. It's a melee game where you're the brother. Ooh. I like the mechanics from Control for the Force as well. It's pretty cool.
That is a team I would love to let's see.
Do a Star Wars game?
Yeah.
Yeah. It's a melee game where you're the brother. Another thing that arose
Yeah,
from...
not gonna lie, I'm watching the trailer right now, and it looks... Oh, sorry. What? Sorry.
Damn, Choco's not this hype with our reactions. I guess I'll have to watch it.
Yeah, I'm excited about that.
We will... Oh, another thing that came out of the Game Awards was the Street Fighter teaser. And this has me split. Because I know what they're trying to control. They're trying to go with. They're trying to capture the funkiness and the jazz feel of Street Fighter 6, the game. But then you have like Guile looking all campy, and it's just giving me PTSD of Jean-Claude Van Damme's Guile, and like...
You mean the best Guile?
I don't know how I feel. Like Ryu and Ken look good. So does Akuma and Cammy. But then like some characters look cosplayish, if I'm being completely honest with you.
Is it possible it's just early mechanics? Yeah, it looks kind of weird.
Yeah, let me know how you feel about that Guile that shows up.
Oh, Guile looks terrible.
But Ryu and Ken look great. Like, their costumes look great. Cammy with the alpha costume looks great.
Yeah.
But and then like Roman Reigns as Akuma with the eyes, I mean, like early look, it looks good. But I don't know how I feel about the overall atmosphere of this. Because one of my favorite depictions of Street Fighter was Assassin's Fist, and that was a more kind of kind of mystical look into, you know, Ryu and Ken's upbringing, and it was very serious. So I don't know. What do you think? You're watching it actively right now.
Yeah, it looks weird. Also, Andrew Schultz is a weird choice. I don't know. I know he's playing Dan, but like, I don't know. Jason Momoa Blanca could be interesting.
Yeah, I mean, like, there are parts of that teaser that looks great. Don't get me wrong. But man, like, the overall feeling that I'm getting from like the trailer holistically, it's like I don't know. I'm still gonna give it a shot. I'm a Street Fighter fan, for sure. But like, you know what I mean? There's trailers that just have you like 100% bought in, like FOTOR. And then there's trailers of Street Fighter where like, I guess, you know, I don't think they want to be like Mortal Kombat. No, that's not what I mean either. Like, if you watch Street Fighter Assassin's Fist, it is a very personal, very dramatic telling of Ryu and Ken's training with Goken. And it takes itself seriously, and it largely succeeds in that storytelling. But mix that with like Guile looking like
I mean, like Guile. He looks
Yeah.
very much like Guile, but like too much like Guile, and
Yeah.
not enough like an actual person. I really, yeah, I feel like maybe we need to do a separate, like, I don't know, game award video,
Rundown.
just because there's a lot of good stuff that I'm looking at. I mean, they just point out that there's a new Divinity game, which is super hype. I mean, if the reason they didn't want to do Baldur's Gate 4 was because they didn't have more they wanted to tell, if that motivated them to tell more stories in Divinity, but with everything that they have learned, which with the Divinity games already being really, really good, that's amazing.
I would play the hell out of a new Divinity using Baldur's Gate 3 like systems. Like, because after Baldur's Gate 3, I went back and played the Divinity games just to be like, man, this is the pedigree of Larian. And they were great, but like again,
you can see how they got to Baldur's Gate 3,
yeah.
But it was certainly a jump up.
It's essentially making the connection between KOTOR and like the games we have today. Like obviously, you know, modern day tech, gameplay sensibilities are going to change. So like there was definitely a through line from Divinity to Baldur's Gate 3, but Baldur's Gate 3 made such innovations mechanically that like I feel like the same way with what I'm hoping KOTOR is, you know, kind of building upon the undercarriage of what made KOTOR great, but also introducing mechanics and technology that exemplifies what makes modern day games great.
Yeah. We also got to do a shout out to Miss Eggy. I know she's not in the chat, but Leon Kennedy is going to be in Resident Evil Requiem, and I know that's going to, make her have feelings.
Listen, there's a chance. So there's always a chance that either Chris or Leon shows up in every Resident Evil game. So it was not a surprise to me. And it's definitely a welcome for sure. But
yeah,
I'm not going to be playing Requiem for Leon though.
And Phidias points out new Mega Man game, but they're keeping it side scrolling in classic style, just making all of that way smoother. That's always really exciting. I
Very
love
nice.
Mega Man games. Yeah, lots of cool stuff. Phantom Blade Zero. I've been waiting for that one for a while.
I mean, the future looks promising. And the more and more we can kind of, I suppose, separate ourselves from the crowd that constantly hates shit, then the happier we can be. And I can't wait to make Fate of the Old Republic my new personality when it comes out. And if people hate the game, I'm gonna dunk on them. I'm just kidding.
It's a Dungeons and Dragons game, Warlock Dungeons and Dragons. It's a single player RPG that leans into expressive magic, they say, and the trailer uses tools. What's it called? Damn, I can't remember the name of the song. That one. Yeah, I think that's actually in Drop D.
Is that sober?
Right?
Is that sober?
My shadow. I don't know the name of the song. I don't think I've ever known them. I totally forgot about the song. It's fun to play.
Oh no, that's a completely different song. Equally as synonymous for sure.
Yeah. Anyways.
Undertow? Undertale?
I couldn't tell you. It's not Schism.
Copyright LMAO. Listen, if they hit us for
Sober.
for-
Yes, it's sober. It's sober. That's what it is.
I just played sober. It didn't.
That wasn't so. Wait.
Yeah, it was.
No. Okay, it's not this song. I love that opening film. Phil.
Oh, it's probably not from the Undertow album. We're gonna spend time.
I'm sorry. Someone already put it in. Oh, yeah. Yes. You're right. I'm a spooky kitty. It's 46 and 2.
Oh, you can't just put numbers in the chat. That's just gonna be like, oh, 6, 7.
I saw that in there, and I was like.
Anyways, now that we have it, I'm not. I was just looking at Anima too, but like, yeah, I'm not gonna play anymore. If they hit us for copyright for Choco playing the guitar, I'm gonna lose my shit.
Listen, I'm not that good.
But that's it.
Yeah, and I think we pretty much covered everything, and
Lots of games.
and then some.
Fate of the Old Republic, Galactic Racer, and everything else that came out of the Game Awards. The future is looking bright. Gamers are eating. Star Wars fans are eating more. I'm biased, I can say that. And we look forward to it. But another...
Congratulations to Clay Obscure for winning Game of the Year. Although all of us knew it was going to win within a week of it coming out.
I would have protested if it didn't, to be honest. Well, no, there's some other contenders for sure, but like if like COD won, I'd be livid. But that's another can of worms. Let's see. I think we've covered everything that we wanted to cover in this episode. Small update for our tabletop RPG episode. That's not episode. Our tabletop RPG Dread game. We have our final players, and I am beginning to construct the scenario. Darth Choco should have a questionnaire to fill out. And yeah, look for that in the new year. It's essentially going to be the first time I DM anything, but it's Dread, so it's just based on kind of pulling Jenga blocks. So it just makes it easier for me to manage the narrative and let the players kind of focus on the tension and their own stories and emotions, rather than kind of juggling with character sheets and numbers and stats. So I'm not doing a camp. It might turn into a franchise because Dread is more or less more scenario based. Depending on how well this kind of this scenario does, because I'm building it out to be kind of like feature length, so it's like a 2-hour scenario. Depending on how it does and how the players feel, it may end up being like something that we move forward with in terms of like universe that we can continue to do dread scenarios in. But yeah, I'm constructing the story right now. The players are filling out their questionnaires. Where will the questionnaire be posted? Discord? No. So we already have our 4 players, Gage. But I will certainly keep you in the mix when it comes to continuing Dread games, especially given, or depending on like how good this one does, because this one is set 20 years after episode 9, and it's in a place that we've been to before, but I don't want to spoil anything for our players. It's gonna be crazy, I'll tell you that much. But yeah, look for that in the new year. Let's see, nothing else really, right?
All right. Well, that's awesome. Any final thoughts? Anyone in the chat?
Yeah, you guys have 2 minutes. I'm just kidding. We're ending it here. Thank you guys so much for rocking with us and hanging out with us always on these very special Friday nights. Illy says, you say Dread, I presume you meant Judge Dread, but now you're saying it's based after episode 9. It is, it's a tabletop RPG system called Dread, D-R-E-A-D. And it's a scenario-based RPG system that uses Jenga to resolve actions and choices of consequence. So no one's rolling die, no one's rolling against the DM. It is essentially, hey, a building is about to fall on you, what do you do? And the person says, I'm going to dodge roll to my left. And you're like, okay, pull 4 blocks. And essentially, if your Jenga tower collapses, your character dies. There is a death. But they also include a mechanic for a heroic sacrifice. So I don't want to go into too deep into the Dread system, but okay, so like choices of consequence, the DM asks for a pull. You can choose to not pull, but that means you will fail the action and suffer the consequences. You won't die, but you will suffer the consequences. If you pull and the tower falls, then you will die. If you knock over the tower voluntarily, you will die, but it will be heroically, and you will cause the story to progress for the other players. And that is like the overall system of the Dread RPG. So we're trying to tell a story, of tension and character. Get real intimate with them. And then we'll see what happens. How good are you at Jenga?
I mean, I'm pretty good, but my problem is I move around too much. Even right now, I'm bouncing my knee, and I can't stop. So, I could destabilize my tower when I'm not doing anything.
I mean, you just gotta You guys gotta do your best to separate yourself from that attachment. Wink. Anyways,
I gotta learn to let go.
Thank you guys so much for rocking with us. Thank you to everybody on the TikTok side for engaging with us in the chat and leaving those likes. Very much appreciate you. Thank you for all of the new DYAD Squad members, as well as all of the ramen drops that we've gotten today. We appreciate you all. Thank you for another awesome Friday night. We will see you next week. Mm-hmm. That's it. On to the next one.
For light and for life.
We are all the DYAD.
And Deadpool and Elsa Bloodstone are coming to Marvel Rivals. I'm excited. May the Force be with you. Always.